Good afternoon from the Second Age of Reason. We're here for another little talk about SciFi Feasibility. This time, we're going to get a little into the gruesome things of those sci-fi weapons. Lasers, phasers, photon torpedoes, disruptors, and other kinds of things. I don't know if I'll be able to cover them all, but we're just going to go over a little bit of it because I believe they make it seem so nifty and so convenient, and that these weapons are so efficient. But a lot of them are special effects, and they have no concept about the underlying physics involved, that if these things were possible, what would be the consequences of them. So, in that regard, let's think about a few popular ones that we've seen over the recent sci-fi things. For instance, in Star Wars, they had a lightsaber. It's almost like a plasma torch. A torch is like powered by electricity, but yet on the other hand, it's kind of like a coherent piece of light, like a laser, and it seems to be able to slice things quite nicely, or not, as the case may be. And so the question is, what does that entail? How much energy does that take to run one of those? So you have the logistics of the batteries that power it. Then you have to realize how dangerous that is to walk around with. I mean, with a regular sword, you can hit yourself on the blunt side of the blade and it won't even do anything. You'll have to hit with the sharp end of the blade. But with a lightsaber, there is no blunt end. It's all deadly from any direction, meaning it's a lot more dangerous to use because you could hurt yourself very easily, as well as the other one. Then there's the aspect of that this light seems to have some solidity to it, because when the two beams hit, it's like a sword. It pushes back. And there's a certain logistics involved in making that happen in physics, which is, I'm not quite sure how they would do that in reality, because mostly blades and flames will just pass through each other as they pass through their victims. So, I mean, that's one sci-fi weapon. Another one are the laser and phaser things, which are essentially just a beam of light of very powerful energy. And of course, they often show them slicing through spaceships or disintegrating people or whatever. Now, in the aspect of when you disintegrate a person or a monster or whatever, I think they've overlooked some basic physics and chemistry there. Because if you were able to heat that big of a mass up to the temperature where the molecules and atoms would disintegrate into ions and become not solid anymore, there are certain problems you'll come across, because you are hitting something that weighs hundreds or thousands of pounds, probably a fair percentage of it water, and suddenly when you heat that up to say 10,000 degrees, 1 million degrees, 100 million degrees, what's going to happen? That's going to want to expand like a little supernova. So if you're probably within a half a mile or a mile of the thing, you'll be vaporized with it. So, and there would be a shockwave that would probably knock down many of the buildings in the nearby vicinity. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And like the phasers from Star Trek, it just won't work that way. You don't just take a 500-pound monster and vaporize it and expect it to just fade away in the breeze as a little warm breeze. No, it doesn't. It'll be quite messy. And Otherwise, they have things like photon torpedoes. Those are like from ship to ship. And all I can imagine is that it is a casing of matter that has a super high energy charge inside of it that converts the matter into photons when it strikes, and that would cause a lot of damage. Now, could force fields repel it? Maybe. If it has some electrical properties, it can be like deflected or sent around the object. So you then have to make sure your deflectors are tuned to all frequencies, because clearly once they know about deflectors, you're going to come up with ways of what are their deflectors working on. Magnetism, projected gravity waves, and all you have to do is get off the frequency so they don't affect it to defeat the deflector. So that's photon torpedoes. But if they do make a direct hit, you can imagine that here you have so much grams or kilograms of matter being converted into pure photons, not even subatomic particles, but there may be some residual. And yes, they can do a great deal of damage. Other ones, can't think of any offhand, but there's things to be considered when dealing with sci-fi. That, well, stun guns, we now call them tasers. It's just electrodes that they shoot into and crank up the voltage, and it knocks you out. It's probably like electroconvulsive shock therapy. Those things are now a reality, and they have their own set of issues that they've been finding out. There's also sonic disruptors, which I think they call them LRADs. They use them for crowd control, sometimes just to project the loudspeaker really loud, and sometimes to produce an incapacitating loud noise. And my guess is that they probably would cause hearing damage. And these are also a reality. I have seen them as early as 1979. I saw one demonstrated. It wasn't like a public use LRAD. It was basically a sonic sound laser beam. Laser is light, but this was just coherent sound projected in a narrow beam, and it was able to make like a beaker of water boil at 20 feet. Totally sound. No microwaves, no electrons, just sound. And I thought, that could be nasty. I mean, it had a different purpose in that application, but I know that it exists, has existed for a long time. So those are some other aspects of sci-fi, supposed weaponry, and whether it's a sidearm or whether it's on board your ship, it's just a matter of scale. And probably there's the physics, which is what happens to the target, which could cause problems, and there are the logistics of the energy storage, because they would require a fair amount of energy to store. And is it used once? Do you have a way of recharging it? So there's all kinds of things involved in that. But that's just some enlightenment for you. So when you just see, they shoot the laser, the phaser at the monster, and he goes, and he's gone. If it was a real phaser and a real monster, it would not be so clean and tidy. And it wouldn't be something you would do at close range, definitely not. So that's all I have for now. So something to think about next time you watch a sci-fi with special weapons. Until later, we'll be seeing you.